You know what you are? You're like a big giant mastiff. You know, you're like a big Beethoven dog. You can't be upset at you. Who likes Michael Bay films?
Oh, come here, buddy boy.
Come here, buddy boy. Who wants to see stereotypical side characters and lots of explosions? Big D does.
Me does. I do.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love and growing up really that good? You ever caught yourself thinking, man, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I'm one of your three co-hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Ranger Bob Lyons.
I don't like soft-ass shit.
And each week, the audience selects from 6 movie choices, which we then break out a race car VHS tape rewinder and watch the movie that tally the highest number of votes at the end of the podcast. The three of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and soon, this fall, is Watchmen on HBO. It's coming out. Are we ready? Have you done any research whatsoever, Gene?
I have. I've reread the Watchmen graphic novel, and I invited you to my Watchmen watch party coming up here September 22nd at my house.
Who watches the Watchmen?
Exactly. And the week after that, you're invited to my Rocky Marathon that goes from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. also at my house.
I will be in Munich. I'll be in my lederhosen.
Well, I'm just going to force your dogs to watch it then.
There you go. Perfect. We are still in the midst of, from now until the end of the year through our Halloween Spooktacular, we are still rounding out the rest of our commissions that we've received from our gracious listeners. This episode is no different. This one, though, comes from a special friend of the podcast, Big D. Is that right?
Yeah, this one's a little bit different. One of our good friends, Drew Zakmin, we've had him on a couple of times. I think he did The Natural and Toy Story with Gene and I. He's a good friend. He hosts a podcast called One Headlight 90s Podcast, and he does everything from the 90s, sports, music, anything 90s, he talks about it. So one day out of the blue, he texts me and he says, "Hey, what movie do you like?" And I said, "I don't know. I fucking like The Rock." He goes, "All right, I just commissioned it." And I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Come on, man. You don't have to pay us to do a movie." I said, "You've supported the podcast where I can't take your money." And he goes, "Too late. Already did it." So today we're recording. I said, I realized that Drew didn't send us his memories. So I text him. I said, "Drew, I need something." He goes, "Honestly, I just picked the movie because you liked it." He said, "You're a good dude. I wanted to donate the money." He goes, "Whatever." He goes, "Do you want me to make something up? Do you want me to write something why I like the movie?" I said, "No, dude, we're good. We're good." So Drew, thank you very much. If you're out there and you like the 90s, I assume you do if you like this podcast, check out Drew. It's One Headlight Podcast. We'll include the links in the notes. He recently did a 3-part 90s guilty pleasure movie with our friend Carmelita Valdez McCoy. So that was nice. Our podcast family is growing.
Now, in your panic, did you actually mean the movie The Rock, or did you just say, "I like The Rock," meaning Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who has gone on, former WWE superstar turned mega actor superstar? Which did you mean?
I mean, who doesn't like The Rock?
That's right.
What's crazy about The Rock is that he's remaking like every 80s and 90s movie anyway. So we might actually just transition into doing a The Rock podcast.
If The Rock remakes The Rock, it's going to blow people's fucking heads off. If The Rock does a remake of The Rock with Jason Statham and Vin Diesel's the villain in the movie, I think that's a multi-billion-dollar movie.
The SEO would be all fucked up. I had enough trouble. Every time I Googled The Rock to try to get facts about this movie, I kept fucking having to scroll through 2 pages of Rock's fucking wrestling poses and his eyebrow lift and shit like that.
The Rock is a 1996 American action thriller film directed by Michael Bay and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson, who died 5 months before its release. The film stars Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris, with William Forsythe and Michael Biehn co-starring. The film did receive moderately positive reviews from critics and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Sound at the 69th Academy Awards. It was, however, a massive box office success, grossing over $335 million against a production budget of only $75 million. In The Rock, an FBI chemist and a former SAS captain and former escapee of Alcatraz are tasked with stopping a group of rogue U.S. Force Recon Marines who have seized Alcatraz Island, taken hostages, and threatened to launch rockets filled with nerve gas over San Francisco unless they are paid $100 million. It remains the highest rated film by Michael Bay, the only one to have a fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. In addition to their nomination at the Academy Awards, it did win an MTV Movie and TV Awards for Best On-Screen Duo for Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage. But more importantly, it won 2 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards in 1997 for Favorite Actor in an Action Adventure that went to Nicolas Cage, and a Favorite Supporting Actor in an Action Adventure, Sean Connery. Before we dive into the podcast review, we always ask the question, where were you? What are your memories of The Rock? We'll start with you, Big D.
So I vividly remember this. It was the summer of 96. I was living out in Long Island. It was the summer off of college. I had to make some money, so I was swinging a hot mop for a local roofer. The most miserable job of my life. Out in the summer heat, up on a roof, it was miserable. So I remember coming home. I'd worked probably like a 10-hour day. I came home. My girlfriend's like, let's go see this movie. And I was like, all right, let's go. And I'm in the theater, sitting there, the air conditioner. I just started falling asleep. How you could fall asleep in a Michael Bay movie, or let alone this one, I don't know. I just remember being very tired and remembering that I should watch this again when I wasn't so tired. And I did, and fucking loved it ever since.
What about you, Gene? Have you seen The Rock?
I haven't. Big D, I'm a lot like you, but I don't think it was your fatigue from hot mopping, because I saw it perfectly well rested, and it was about 10 years after it came out, and I was just like, this plot just keeps repeating itself. Sean Connery is like dead on screen, and I basically tuned it out and nodded off a lot during my first viewing of the movie. So I'm so glad that Drew, in a way, decided to commission this movie, because it gave me a second chance to really view it for its merit when I was in a little bit better mindset, I guess, to appreciate this Michael Bay masterpiece, because I did not appreciate it the first time.
Anytime Big D tells a story from his childhood, I'm reminded of how soft of a life I've lived in Long Island. Like, were there fun jobs at a young age, Big D, or were you? Oh, this was the only job you could get?
No. In college, I bounced at the local bar.
Okay,
and then I bounced at another kind of outdoor cafe that had music. But whatever, it was. I'm not making it sound like it was fucking Roadhouse. You know, I wasn't out there getting shanked in the parking lot and didn't have to drive like a dummy car. But no, it's college. It's they're giving you shit jobs. Like, what could I have done that made any money? I was a college student.
Well, like I've always had like pretty fun jobs. And I guess that's part and parcel of like growing up in Orlando, where you can work like shitty theme park jobs that are still kind of like fun, like driving the Jaws boat and dressing as a Disney character. And that's kind of what I did all throughout college as well. Meanwhile, you're out there doing the hot mop with the tar there on top of roofs. And I just think to myself, like, I worked maybe, if I did a 4-set shift, that's 8 hours, because the union was so strong at Disney. Like, we got paid for walking in between sets, and then it was really hot. We only had to do 20 minutes on. So like, essentially during like an 8-hour shift, I'd work maybe an hour of that. And it was mostly hugging kids and signing autographs and autograph books. Anyway, the point of that is that's where I met my girlfriend, who I took to see this movie. And then afterwards we went to Chili's, shared a queso dip, and then went back for some special Raj lovemaking at my house, which was basically how I spent my Friday nights in high school.
Yeah, you did have a soft ass life.
I had a fucking soft ass life. With that being said, Big D, play the trailer.
Following is a state secret, gentlemen. Disclose it to any party and you will be subject to prosecution. His name is John Mason, British national, incarcerated on Alcatraz in 1962. Escaped in 63. There's no identity in the United States or Great Britain. He does not exist.
Secrets have a way of coming back to haunt you.
There's a hostage situation on Alcatraz. Hostage? 81 tourists. The Rock's a tourist attraction.
The one you train to defend you becomes your greatest threat.
A battery of VX gas rockets is presently deployed to deliver a highly lethal strike on the population of the San Francisco Bay Area.
And the one you abandon becomes your only hope.
You go talk to him.
Me?
Yeah.
Hiya. I'm an agent with the FBI. I'm Stanley Goodspeed.
But of course you are. At least he got his name right.
Now, all that stands between a city and a disaster.
The power of this chemical is way beyond anything you can imagine. That's why you're coming with us.
Is a man who's never seen combat.
You're a chemical freak. I'm a chemical super freak, actually.
And another who's been out of action for 30 years.
Show us on the blueprints.
I can't. My blueprint was in my head.
Fortunately, some things you never forget.
But don't worry. It'll all come back to me.
From Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, the producers of Top Gun and Crimson Tide, and Michael Bay, the director of Bad Boys.
Welcome to the Rock.
We got visitors.
Sean Connery.
You sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage.
Listen, I'm just a biochemist. I drive a Volvo, a beige one. So what do you say you cut me some friggin' slack?
Ed Harris.
Fire.
This summer, get ready to rock.
A group of Marines led by Brigadier General Frank Hummel, played by Ed Harris, and Major Tom Baxter, played by David Morse, storm a naval weapons depot and steal a stockpile of deadly VX gas rockets. The next day, Hummel and his men seize control of Alcatraz Island, taking 81 tourists hostage. He threatens to launch the rockets against San Francisco unless the U.S. government pays him $100 million from a military slush fund, which he will distribute to his men and the families of recon Marines who died on clandestine missions under his command, but whose deaths were not compensated.
So I'm watching this movie with a critical eye, getting ready to just open fire on it, no pun intended. And Ed Harris comes on screen, and Ed Harris is a legit actor. Like, I have a lot of respect for Ed Harris. I love him in like pretty much every role he's ever done. And he starts off very strong in this movie. And I'm like, is this a Michael Bay movie with believable and powerful monologues from respected actors? Like, is this something different? And then mid-monologue, it turns to crap as like General Hummel's rant goes melodramatic and then becomes utterly unbelievable. And I just felt so bad for Ed Harris because he's really giving it 110%. And then Michael Bay just can't help himself. The script just gets fucking schlocky right off the bat.
Yeah, you have Michael Bay doing his like typical Americana stuff, which he's in like in every movie. It's over the top. There's always a shot underneath of like an American flag with soldiers carrying it. And I guess they're trying to tell a backstory of Hummel, and I guess try to paint him in as kind of a sympathetic character. But this is all through like intercut scenes of like a really bad music video where you have like an American flag.
Yeah.
You have like a big giant fireball explosion for no apparent reason. You have voiceover of like Ed Harris talking to different people. But where it gets really bad for me, this would, I guess, would be okay, because again, it's Michael Bay, but him standing next to, I guess, the grave of his wife, and it literally just says his wife. But that's actually something the military, I guess, at a certain rank, you get to be buried. Your wife or spouse gets to be married in military, semi-military. Is that right, Big D?
I don't know. If we go by Michael Bay, it must be a fact. But you think this opening's bad? I'm loving it. This is glorious. This is everything that makes a fucking Michael Bay movie. He's got tons of slow motion. We have dramatic rain. It's got to rain in the beginning of a movie.
Right.
We have to have unexplained smoke. You said the American flags. We've got the camera doesn't stop moving at any point. It's like left pan, right pan, up, down, zoom, parallax. The camera doesn't stay still at all. Then he's also groups of guys in wheelchairs. We had that in Bad Boys. We have it in this. And then, of course, Hans Zimmer. This is fucking glorious. This is a summer movie. You want a big bucket of popcorn. You want to turn your brain off, and you want to be like, fuck yeah.
Well, in addition to that, I don't quite get the hard-on for the Bayisms like that you do. I do get a hard-on for this cast, though, because you have David Morse, who those will recognize were in The Green Mile and also played the best rendition of George Washington in John Adams. Fucking great. John C. McGinley of Scrubs and Office fame. Like, I was a big Scrubs fan, spoiler alert. Like, the rest of the cast is great and brilliant, too. We're going to talk about that. But at one point, Arnold Schwarzenegger was rumored to play the role, or was offered to play the role of Dr. Stanley Goodspeed. Could you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger in the role? We talked about like Dwayne Johnson remaking this. Could you imagine if Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't the general, but was actually trying to play the doctor?
Oh, 100%. So I loved Nick Cage in this role, but Schwarzenegger, they put some glasses on him to like give him that, but look, did you see his performance in that Batman movie? He's a smart guy. No, but look, I mean, the fact of the matter is that he would be dynamite because he was at the point in his career here where he could do comedy pretty well. And I think that he would just make it a much funnier movie. But I don't think it would be the movie it is today if it weren't Nick Cage in that role.
But there's also something about a scientist with an Austrian accent.
It gives a little credibility.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't necessarily want someone with an Austrian accent hanging around some chemical weapons.
Yeah, so I think an accent helps for, credibility, as long as it's not a doctor. A doctor with a German accent, it makes me a little weary. I don't know what they've done. But for the scientists here and him being an expert with chemical weapons, I had to stop and think. I was like, does the U.S. really still have any chemical weapons? Because I know we've been following the Geneva Convention for a while. So I was like, I got to check if this is even plausible. And I was shocked to learn that the U.S. still has a large stockpile of chemical weapons all the way back from World War I. Mm-hmm. And only in 1993 did we adopt the Chemical Weapons Convention, where we said we're gonna get rid of all of our stockpile. Then they started in 85 to destroy them. And up until 2012, which was the last time they reported, they had only destroyed 89.75% of their chemical weapons. But I was shocked that in 8 different states, there is actually a stockpile that Hummel and his guys could go and raid.
I mean, it makes sense. You can't just like put them in a dumpster and set it on fire. Like, you got to be very careful when disposing of this stuff. So I imagine there's not a huge budget for disposing of weapons that have already been created. I could see it taking quite a while. I think you have to be very, very careful with this stuff. Let's give our government a break, guys. Don't you guys love America?
Yeah, but I mean, if the soldiers guarding the U.S. chemicals are anything like the guards guarding the chemicals in the rock, I'm really scared.
All right. I'm willing to give them a break because the soldiers were expecting General Hummel to show up with a team and they were just doing like an inspection or checking out the facility. Sure. So their guard is down a little bit. And I get it. Like, the movie tries to show you again and again that these Marine Force Recon guys don't want to kill any of their fellow soldiers, right? They're just trying to incapacitate them, or I guess sailors in this case. So they're like super stealthy and they come under the guise of that security visit and they're like using like, dart guns. And first of all, Hummel must have given them one hell of a speech to go, hey, these other guys have fucking automatic weapons and you're going to go in there with dart guns and take them out. And then Michael Bay, again, cannot help himself. He's like, yeah, they're going to shoot him with dart guns, but every single guy that gets taken out has to fall off like a 10-foot platform in slow motion or tumble down the stairs. Like, if you're trying to keep people safe, maybe don't kick them through windows and fucking throw them downstairs. Just be gentle.
But also, what kind of fucking darts were these? Were these like fucking blowfish darts? They take people down in like a millisecond. It hits you in the neck, boom, you're down. I've watched enough National Geographics. Whenever they're going to like fucking sedate a lion, they got to shoot it, give it a couple seconds. It walks around, it staggers, it falls. These guys are down at the drop of a hat. But why are they playing Batman? They're fucking sneaking over the wall with that grappling hook. They shoot it into the concrete. Then they do a zip line through the window of the tower. Hummel is driving in vehicles. They think he's coming in for an authentic, valid, inspection. Just put the guys in the back of the 5-ton. Drive them in. Hey, these are my guys. They're with me.
makes no sense why they would have to do any of this.
I refer you to the opening of Bad Boys. Like, that entire raid for the drugs was unnecessarily complicated. They have night vision goggles, but then they go in with their flashlights. They're coming in through the AC ducts and using like some weird sort of air conditioning toboggan. It's Michael Bay. He's got a budget and he's like, fuck, we're spending every goddamn cent.
Well, the Pentagon develops a plan to retake the island with a Navy SEAL team led by Commander Anderson, played by Michael Biehn, enlisting the FBI's top chemical weapons specialist, Dr. Stanley Goodspeed, played by Nicolas Cage. FBI Director James Womack is forced to offer a pardon to federal prisoner John Mason, played by Sean Connery, in return for information. Mason, a 60-year-old British national imprisoned without charges for 3 decades, is the only Alcatraz inmate ever to escape the island. After being set up in a hotel, Mason escapes, resulting in a car chase with Goodspeed through the streets of San Francisco. While Mason seeks out his estranged daughter Jade, Goodspeed arrives, but he covers for Mason, telling Jade that Mason is aiding the FBI.
Okay, when we are about to watch a Michael Bay movie, and we've seen a ton of them, we know there's going to be some bullshit. Like Michael Bay's explosions and like insanely inaccurate science. We've seen that all over the years. But out of all the movies I've watched, there's this rope trick that Mason does in this movie that might be the biggest bag of lies Michael Bay has ever dished. So Sean Connery, if you don't recall this scene, he is in the shower and there's a clothesline in the hotel shower, and he takes it, he ties it up, and you're wondering like, what's he going to do with it? And it keeps popping up, like he's getting his haircut, and underneath the cape, you can see the rope in his hands. You're like, what's he going to do with it? He wraps it around a grown man's wrist and then throws him off a balcony. And look, I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure that you do that rope, your wrist, probably your shoulder, are all just going to explode like a Thanksgiving turkey thrown into a bullet train. Ugh. It's going to be bad. And then Sean Connery, like it's no big thing, gingerly ties a 1/4-inch thick line, which is about the thickness of this clothesline, around a chair arm and just takes off. Like it's just going to hold. It's fucking, what the fuck?
I honestly think that what the rope would have done, because it was so narrow, if the rope had held, I think it would have degloved his entire hand.
Yes.
Roger and I had a friend who degloved 3 of his fingers while working with an auger. Imagine if you're just peeling a glove off of your hand, but instead of that, it's the skin on your fingers. That would have fucking ripped his hand off. He would not be fucking just wearing a sling talking about his bowling game. He would have been fucked up.
Not only does he throw this guy off and not deglove him, unfortunately, he then leads Goodspeed and the rest of the FBI and San Francisco police through the streets of San Francisco, where he is destroying everything. Mm-hmm. And the only thing Goodspeed does is not arrest him, not tackle him. He saves his feelings in front of his daughter, doesn't out him, and says, hey, he's with me. We're helping with the FBI. No other prisoner would be treated in the same way.
It's possible, but this is 2019, right? We're used to, on the internet, we can find whatever we want about somebody. Find where they live, their family, who they're married to, go to Facebook. This is 1996. Goodspeed is on a fucking motorcycle. He is having a high-speed chase through the hills of San Francisco. He takes his cell phone out, calls the guy back in the office and says, hey, look up this inmate Mason. Oh, there is no Mason. Well, go back to 69 and look up the medical records. How the fuck is he doing all of this investigating while riding a motorcycle?
Not only that, but then Sean Connery, his character Mason, isn't even like that bad of a guy. They're treating him as if he's Il Duce from the Boondock Saints. When they lead him out of prison, he's got like the chains all around him, and he's got people with shotguns behind him. Like he's the most dangerous man in there. It turns out like he didn't really do anything. What was the point of making his character seem like he was such a crazy, over the top sadist?
Oh, I think it's the lies that the government told, so everyone keep him under lock and key, because the fear is that he's like really good at, escaping, which makes the entire scene in the hotel where they ordered all the food so ridiculous, because first of all, you're not giving him phone access. Like the guy supposed to be washing him, like lets him have a private shower. That's not happening. And then all the guys that are supposed to be guarding him are just like, well, there's food room service. I guess we better ignore him. Let him out on the balcony. What the fuck, guys?
Well, this is the problem that I have with Michael Bay is this is where we start to see a lot of the stereotypes. And I don't know if Michael Bay is necessarily racist or he's just really into stereotypes, because you get the stylist. I forgot completely about the stylist that comes out that's over the top homosexual. He's like, could Picasso paint with just, small brushes or whatever? And then
that's offensive. That voice is offensive.
That is exactly what the stylist in this movie does. Then he's using the trimmer.
Here he comes to save the day.
Did you get it out of your system yet?
Then are you telling me? I think the most unbelievable thing about this, though, Big D and Gene, is how does Sean Connery's haircut look that good with just using trimmers? Just using trimmers.
I mean, my mom is a hairstylist and has been for many years. And listen, don't underestimate their abilities. I think she could do a great job. But he looks good. I mean, he looks good with the long hair, but he looks very, very nice in this movie. I was impressed. I was like, ooh, et voila.
Well, wasn't this around the time that Sean Connery was voted the sexiest man alive?
Yeah, that's a fucking pity vote. That's a joke. You and I were looking at that, Roger. For some reason, in '89, they gave this old man the sexiest man alive. I don't care. You could poll 80% of the world's female population. They could say he's a good-looking man, but there are plenty of other sexier men. This same cover, if you go back and look at it, they also had the sexiest, quote, big man award, and it was John Goodman. So let's just say the taste back in '89 wasn't the fucking best.
That's because Shat the Movies hadn't launched yet, and they didn't know about Big D.
Oh, yeah.
Raj, you mentioned earlier the Bayisms, and you've got me trained now. And now I can see them like a mile away. In this car chase, it's got the full catalog of Bayisms. You got the unnecessary explosions, the black actors reinforcing stereotypes, like black people in Michael Bay movies can only do black things. There's the camera shots that are so close you can't tell what's happening. So you got a car chase, but most of the shots are like in the car. So like, what the fuck is happening? Did they run somebody over? Are they taking a turn? And then Big D, as you mentioned it, as all this shit's going on, I'm like, well, at least they don't have the guys in wheelchairs. Guys in wheelchairs literally show up. And I'm just like, is that the same guys from Bad Boys? Like, this might be a thing. We need to look into this.
Yeah, I counted all the Bay barriers. It started with the waiters, then the chefs, then taxi cabs, then road work, painted hippie cars, water trucks, vegetable stands, old lady, a literal old lady pulled from like the Spirit Halloween costume store, crossing the street, a streetcar, a fucking team of wheelchair basketball players, and then they make poor Sean Connery. I think he was like 69 when he I think he was in his 60s, definitely at 67 when he made this movie. He was like, I hope they're insured. Like he's just doing terrible one-liners as he's wrecking San Francisco. They threw things at them to like the FBI agent. Like, oh, he's running into things to slow us down. That's not what you do to slow people down.
So you don't think like a truck of bottled water is going to fucking deter the police from coming to get you?
Going 70 miles per hour in San Francisco. Are you fucking kidding me?
No. And so listen, you're talking about these, you say it's stereotypical. I say it's Michael Bay's side characters. I love them. I know they're, if you sit back and you break them down, they're probably not the best representation, but they're awesome. They add flavor to the background. They're in almost every scene. So in this one, we get the cable car operator, played by Leonard McMahon, and he's got the great lines, "We gonna crash! Save yourselves!" And oh my baby. They're great, man. You remember them. The hairstylist, you're saying it's offensive? I thought it's great when he's like, can I at least do a hot oil treatment? That shit's funny. But Michael Bay's best ever was, do you remember Armageddon?
Yes.
Eddie Griffin playing the bike messenger. It opens up. He's driving the bicycle with little Richard, the dog, in the basket. And he says, "Hang on, little Richard. I'm coming. Hang on." You guys call that shit racist. I say that shit's fucking hilarious.
It is stereotypical. There's a black woman that gets trapped in prison. And she's like, "What, you ain't got no gun? I got a gun. Everyone got a gun." Are you kidding me?
Big D, I got a movie you got to check out. It's called The Birth of a Nation. You'd love it.
You would. This is... But I mean, like you said, Big D, this happens in every single movie. Gene, you said there's Bayams all over. Did you guys, have you had that Mandela effect where you think Con Air is The Rock or The Rock is Con Air? Like they're essentially the same movie. Nick Cage is just playing John Cusack's character, and Nick Cage is playing Sean Connery's character.
But this is when Nicolas Cage did not take himself so seriously. After this, he became a viable action star, and that's when his head got huge, and he started having all kinds of problems where he thought he took every single role out there. But in this movie, I think 50% Cage is so much better than 100% Cage. I will take this version, this like incompetent scientist, over him playing some badass shady police detective in Snake Eyes, or a master car thief in Gone in 60 Seconds, or the world's most ruthless terrorist in Face Off, or an army ranger in Con Air. The insecure Nicolas Cage characters, they're so much easier to digest. They're likable. When he's sitting in the helicopter and he's shaking and he's nervous and he's lying to everybody about his weapons training, that version of Cage, I think, is his best.
I think the big head that you're thinking of is just Nick Cage's hairline as it keeps receding throughout the entire movie. Like, did you guys find that incredibly distracting?
No, I was gazing deeply into his eyes. I didn't notice any of that. And his crazy smile.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't understand why at this point you don't just wear a toupee like Sean Connery. Like, his hair is out of control here. It looks even worse in Con Air because like he puts like extensions in. But yeah, Nick Cage mid-90s hairstyle is nuts.
His Con Air hair is terrible, but I thought his hair was fun in this movie. It looked like he was just going fast all the time.
Yeah.
That's his character, Goodspeed.
Aha.
Goodspeed, Mason, and the SEALs infiltrate Alcatraz, but Hummel's men are alerted to their presence and ambush them in the shower room. All the SEALs are killed, leaving only Mason and Goodspeed alive. Mason sees his chance to escape custody and disarms Goodspeed, but he is convinced to help defuse the rockets after the Marines use explosive device to flush them out.
So I think, Roger, early on, you mentioned the cast, and the cast is phenomenal. From the side characters in the Pentagon to all of even the tourists who've become prisoners. But it hinges on Cage and Connery, their interplay and the way they work together. And I think on screen, they hit it off. You know, you have Sean Connery, who's the expert. He's the well-trained SAS agent. Nicolas Cage is incompetent. He's nervous. And some of the best lines come out of this relationship. When we got to the point where he says, you're going to try your best, the best is what losers say. The winners go home and fuck the prom queen. I was like, holy shit. I totally remember this line. And I think it has to be one of Bay's best lines.
Big, do you say this is one of the best Michael Bay lines? That might be, but it's not a good line. It made me incredibly uncomfortable. I was watching this. I was just like, ugh, that didn't sit well with me at all. Like, these are two grown men talking about fucking the prom queen. Gross.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That made you more uncomfortable than I guess I'm not as attractive as I used to be. Avoiding all the gang rape in prison. Like, he literally makes a prison rape joke.
Yeah. Awful.
Terrible.
That shit worked for me. I liked it.
Now, Big D, you said you loved the chemistry between Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. And while that was pretty good, I really liked the chemistry between Michael Biehn and everybody else around him. And I actually was talking to a coworker about The Rock, and I was talking about how much I loved Michael Biehn. And he's like, yeah, dude, he's awesome in everything he's in. I'm like, well, what else is he in? A lot of things. So obviously he was Kyle Reese in The Terminator. He also was in Aliens and Tombstone and Planet Terror and The Abyss. And interestingly enough, in 1990, he was in Navy SEALs.
Question, though, is every character that he plays, does he die?
Yeah, I think every character he plays has to die and also wear a headset, like some sort of futuristic
right, exactly.
Headset. But I think that just must be in his movie contract. But I was actually sad when he died. Like, I really liked Michael Biehn in this movie, and I was kind of rooting for him. Like, he seemed like the hero we really wanted. And when they wiped him, I was like, that's cold-hearted, The Rock. Cold-hearted.
Yeah, you think every script that's sent to Michael Biehn, they're like, hey, you're going to move through this blaringly obvious trap hole, and you're gonna die a heroic death. He's like, I can do that. I can play that.
It's like, I got it. Where's my headset? Let's go. And you mentioned the glaringly obvious trap. I don't understand. These guys get in the hard part, right? They get in underwater. They get into the island. They get through all the obstacles, and they finally find the shower room. And of course, they're cautious enough to look and make sure that there's no traps. And they notice a countermeasure in the room. Like, they see it, and they still decide to go through that hole. They're like, oh, that's cool. We got it. Like, so clearly, whoever is guarding this place is watching this room. Maybe find one of the million other manholes in the prison to go through.
Yeah. So I guess their plan of attack is to take helicopters from a base, I guess in Oakland or San Francisco, go over the bay, then drop in scuba gear, and I guess they have like little motorized underwater submarine scooters.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen that before. That was pretty cool. But if you look at San Francisco Bay, outside of the fact that there's zero visibility, outside of the fact that the current is crazy strong, outside of the fact that the temperature is very cold, there's man-eating sharks all over that. None of this is mentioned. It's like they've gone to the Bahamas and they've just gone through like an old pirate's cave in the Goonies. They're going to rescue treasure. That's how clear the water is here.
I mean, the water is very clear, but Raj, this is the Navy SEALs. It's not like just a couple guys with snorkels like dipping in the water. These guys are trained, highly elite professionals.
But Roger is onto something. You wouldn't bring in a helicopter that they can see. These are, you have the general. He's in there with his trained guys who have been out there. They're looking at the helicopters. They see three, then one disappears. You're in a submarine. How about you take a sub and you launch those things from underwater? Then we don't have the risk of them seeing a helicopter. But this just starts the what the fuck moments. They come up where they come out of the water, and there's, for some reason, it's a boiler room, but there's like a giant steam engine that's running and shooting timed flame bursts with a gear that is only partially teeth. So it starts spinning. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why would this be running in an abandoned closed prison?
Everything underneath Alcatraz is still running. It's like, they're like, this was once a Civil War fort. Like, why so? And also the timing of this engine hasn't changed since the 60s. It's exactly the same. I wouldn't trust that with my life.
So you're telling me the bottom of Alcatraz is like an American Ninja Warrior obstacle?
Yes,
that's what it is?
yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah. Also, how did Sean Connery escape through the boiler room when there's a door that just opens up into the water to swim out?
Now, Big D looks confused. Big D, let me explain what Raj just said.
No, I understand. I was thinking more about why the fuck is he counting paces? He's not digging for fucking treasure. He can see the door. He can see the pipe. Why is he counting paces?
He has to crawl. There's no paces. But also there's this scene obviously is where, like you said, Gene, all the Navy SEALs are ambushed, and you've been in the military, Big D. If you are in a shower scene with the rest of your, I guess, unit, right? And you have the enemy at an elevated position pointing their guns at you, what do? Like, you immediately give the order to lay down your weapons, right? And become a hostage.
I think even though he says I can't give that order, I think he probably would have put the weapons down because none of you are going to walk out of it alive. But I'm just surprised that none of them hit the guys up above the showers. Maybe one or two guys gets hit. Everybody's armed. Everybody's trained. Just because you're in the showers doesn't mean you can't shoot. One or two of Hummel's men, I think, would have been killed.
I think what bothered me the most about this scene is, okay, the helicopters, they see them. So the fucking jig is up. Like, they should be like, hey, look, we have these rockets. We're threatening to attack you. You launch a sortie at us. We're going to launch the rockets. The second that Hummel doesn't do that, everybody in the U.S. military knows he's full of shit. They're coming at him with everything at that point. Then they take out your SEAL team. They still don't launch the rockets. Like, at this point, you know that he's bluffing. His bluff sucks. I thought that the whole point of the movie was like the second that they know something is up, the rockets are going to go off. And then I'm like, oh no, he's just incredibly patient about all this. He's like, well, there's two guys still running around. I guess we better catch them and not launch any rockets at all. In fact, let's just leave all the rockets unmanned.
Dude, he doesn't even kill any fucking hostages. I'm not saying I condone it, but if you want them to believe that you're going to fucking kill 1 million people, shooting one or two of the hostages would get your point across.
Well, Goodspeed and Mason eliminate several teams of Marines and disable 12 of the 15 rockets by removing their guidance chips. Hummel threatens to execute a hostage if they do not surrender and return the guidance chips. Instead, Mason destroys the chips and surrenders to Hummel to try and reason with him, as well as buy Goodspeed some time. Though Goodspeed disables another rocket, the Marines capture him, and with the incursion team lost, the military initiates their backup plan, an airstrike by FA-18s with thermite plasma, which is designed to neutralize the poison gas and kill everyone on the island.
Okay, so before they go out on the mission, Goodspeed thinks he's going to brief some guys on the chemical weapons, on the VX gas. And then he realizes, oh my God, I have to come along. And he's freaked out. And he goes and throws up in the most artistic restroom you've ever seen in your life. But as I'm watching him disarm these weapons, I'm like, why did he come along? So they established that all you need to disarm these weapons is to open them up with a screwdriver, gently fondle the balls, remove the chip, and break the chip. So why do you need a biochemical genius to figure this out? I watched this movie twice and I could fucking do the job. And while we're at it, why are you putting the chemicals in glass balls that are like fragile? It's going into a rocket that's going to explode. Why would you have it in such a dangerous container?
It makes zero sense at all. Now, the only thing that I can think of, because I had the exact same thought, was maybe perhaps one of the Marine recons or one of the recon Marines that was with them was going to be the one that was going to disable the chips. And he was just going to be there in the background saying, hey, those glass balls are fragile. Please don't drop them.
But you're missing the point. Okay. They're taking out the guidance chips. They're not threatening to hit a fucking church or hit this building. They don't care what the fuck they hit. The rockets still work. Just fire them into San Francisco. You got five of them. There. Just shoot them indiscriminately. If one of them lands in the water, one of them goes too far, one of them hits fucking the Oakland Coliseum, it doesn't matter. It works. You can shoot them. Why not go in there and just make the rockets not work? Break the fins off of the rockets. Take out the engines. Make it so you can't shoot the rockets. That's what they need to do. But Goodspeed and Mason, they are not the fucking greatest at killing people with traditional weapons. If you pay attention, right, they use physics to kill more of the bad guys than guns, bullets, bombs, right? They use gravity. They drop the air conditioner on that one guy's head. Mason throws at least 3 Marines off the roof. One of them gets impaled on like a fucking fence post. Another guy he sets on fire and then drowns him. Then there's the big dude when you have fucking Sean Connery, old man, fighting like the beefiest badass Marine. He somehow wraps a chain around his neck, then throws a counterweight down the well that chokes him out. This is like a science class. It's like physics.
It's more like what would happen if the Three Stooges were in a Michael Bay film. That's really kind of what it is.
Fun fact, there was an alternate cut of this movie because in certain countries, they found the guy getting shot in the feet too grotesque and violent. You know, and Sean Connery, the guy, the air conditioner guy, he first shoots him and you can see the bullets going through his boots and like into his feet. And they're like, whoa. Too much. Just let an air conditioner fall on him.
On British television, they wouldn't allow, you know, when he throws the knife at the soldier and he's like, Goodspeed, you can't hesitate. And it's like, it literally, Michael Bay takes a shot of a knife going through the air, then going into the guy's neck. Now, it's so fake looking. I thought it was like one of those satire movies that was popular, like Hot Shots, where they were just like making fun of these type of movies. And then they would throw in like the over the top. You can see it's a prop and it's not really like there's nothing. They banned that in Britain. Like they had to take out the scene because they thought that was too grotesque. I thought the most grotesque scene was the guy who gets impaled. Like that comes out of left field, in my opinion.
But dude, you know they have throwing knives, right? They're designed to throw. He throws a Rambo fucking survival knife.
Exactly.
It's like a 12-inch serrated blade with a compass in the handle. You can't fucking throw that thing 4 feet away and get it to go straight. That's not what it's designed for.
That's what I'm talking about. It's not designed. It's the wrong kind of knife for throwing it, and they still put it in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, while we're on the topic of realism, the U.S. government is faced with this hostage situation. Nobody in the press knows about it. The public is not aware. This is Hummel calling the Pentagon essentially directly. He's talking with, generals and the president. And at no point does anyone in San Francisco know about it. So the U.S. government has a choice here. They can blow up Alcatraz and kill 80 hostages and leave a Medal of Honor recipient dead, or pay $100 million. The U.S. government is paying that fucking money immediately. It is not worth it. Fucking scrambling a squad of FA-18s with thermite plasma probably costs more than $100 million. Just pay the man.
Not only that, but it's in a slush fund that the taxpayers wouldn't even see. And it's the fucking Pentagon. They get billions of dollars a year. Who's going to miss $100 million? No one. That's why, in my opinion, the U.S. government is the real villain in The Rock.
This could have been like a fucking Dr. Evil moment. We said $1 million. When Hummel says, "Give me $100 million," they're like, "That's it? Okay, dude. We'll get you the check right now. We're gonna send it fucking right over. No problem."
Right.
But what I did like here that made it believable. Once Goodspeed and Mason survive, I'm like, fuck, he's gone. How do you keep him involved in the mission? How is Goodspeed going to work on him to say, hey, you have to do the right thing. Let's save it. What about the people? Boom. I totally forgot the daughter. That chase through San Francisco and meeting the daughter paid off. It is the only reason that Mason would stay against all odds. He knows he's going to die. It made it reasonable. So I was like, thank you. At least this one thing fit together.
I've just now discovered who Michael Bay films are for. They're for Big D. Big D is a big, you're a big, you know what you are? You're like a big giant mastiff. You're like a big Beethoven dog. You can't be upset at you. Who likes Michael Bay films?
Oh, come here, buddy boy.
Come here, buddy boy. Who wants to see stereotypical side characters and lots of explosions? Big D does.
Me does. I do.
The irony of the entire situation is his daughter was probably like, I'm getting the fuck out of San Francisco. My convict dad who keeps escaping is here. He knows where I live. I'm out.
Well, Mason and Goodspeed escape, and Mason explains why he was held prisoner. When the deadline for the transfer of the ransom passes, Hummel fires one of the rockets, but it then redirects it to detonate at sea. Hummel declares the mission is over, explaining that it was all an elaborate bluff, as he never had any intention of harming innocent lives. Meanwhile, Captains Fry and Darrow rebel upon realizing they will not be paid their $1 million apiece, killing Baxter and mortally wounding Hummel, who tells Goodspeed where the last rocket is before dying.
I'm so glad we could see him die as a hero. But he launches the first rocket. And again, mind you, I didn't remember any of this movie. It had been years since I'd seen it. And I'm legit on the edge of my seat when that first rocket launched. I was like, oh, fuck. This movie's getting dark in a hurry. They're going to murder a whole stadium of people. And I'm not saying I should have because all the signs were there that it was a bluff, but I bought the bluff.
Yeah, but this is the same problem that we have with the entire movie because the rockets shouldn't take that long. No one should be that on the edge of their seat.
Okay, Big D, please feel free to correct me, but I did a little bit of research here from my Air Force junior ROTC days, remembering rocket science roughly. And most U.S. military rockets and missiles travel just under Mach 1. They're at about 7/10 of Mach 1. So it's about 520 miles per hour. And if you break that down, it's about 8 miles a second. The distance as the crow flies, or the rocket flies, from Alcatraz to Oakland is 8 miles. So those rockets would be in the air for a second before impact. Let's be generous and say 2 seconds. In this movie, they were up there for a fucking hour while Hummel decides what to do. This shit would have been over really fast. And I think the U.S. government would have taken it much more seriously.
But it wasn't even the speed of the rockets, right? He launches them. It's dramatic. It's flying over the water. He then decides, what should I do? And he's looking at his keyboard and he's tapping his fingers. And, he kind of slides the keyboard away so the other people can't see. And he starts typing in. Then he hits enter. Then the dish turns slowly and aims at the rocket. And then he turns the rocket. I don't forget about how fast it's going. There's no way he would have been able to communicate those changes with the rocket once it was in the air.
And you just know Ed Harris old man types too with one finger for each key. There's no way he types fast at all. But I think this has to do with the fact that this is an uneven screenplay. Jonathan Hensley, who's best known for writing films such as Jumanji, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Armageddon, participated in writing the script, which actually became the subject of a dispute between the Writers Guild of America. The spec script was written by two writers, Weisberg and Cook, but Hensley, along with several writers, took a stab at rewriting this. In fact, as part of this arbitration with the Writers Guild of America, there was only one person that got some cut of this. Mark Rosner, who's mostly a TV writer, was the only one granted official credit by the Guild arbitration. The rule is that the credited writing team must contribute 50% of the final script. And despite their work on the script, neither Hensley nor Aaron Sorkin, who had a hand in this, was credited in the film. Michael Bay wrote a letter in protest in which he criticized the arbitration procedure as a sham and a travesty. He said that Hensley had worked closely with him on the movie and should have received screen credit. Quentin Tarantino was also an uncredited screenwriter. So this is the perfect storm of all the movies. In fact, At one point, Sean Connery had his own screenwriter fly in and write lines for him. So, of course, this movie's going to be all over the place.
He was like, what the fuck's a prom queen?
I don't understand what's a prom king.
Oh, God, we've gone Jimmy Stewart again.
Well, this movie actually, in my research, I also found that it may have caused Operation Iraqi Freedom. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, basically the guy who was writing the report from the British intelligence started using some really weird facts that didn't match up with anything in reality, and people called him out on it. And all those facts happened to appear in fucking The Rock.
What?
You didn't hear about this, Big D?
No.
Yeah, so the British Secret Intelligence Service, there was an agent there who based his reports on The Rock, and they questioned him about it, and they were like, hey, glass containers are not typically used in chemical munitions, but that movie The Rock did you just steal from The Rock? And they found out like a month before the invasion of Iraq, they concluded that their source had been lying over a long period of time and failed to inform other people. So the entire calamity that is the Iraq war was caused because a fucking British intelligence officer fabricated a report based upon The Rock.
WMDs.
Yellow cake.
Well, Darrow and Fry proceed with the plan to fire on San Francisco. Goodspeed seeks out the rocket while Mason deals with the remaining Marines. And as the jets approach, Goodspeed disables the rocket before killing both Darrow and Fry. He signals that the threat is over just as one jet drops a bomb. Goodspeed and Mason part ways after Mason reveals the location of the microfilm. Goodspeed fakes Mason's death by saying Mason was killed in the bomb explosion. End movie.
So, Big D, here it is. More science used to kill guys. No, you can't just shoot a guy or stab a guy. Nick Cage has got to use a rocket to kill a guy. And everywhere else in the movie, like the aforementioned rocket that went toward the stadium, it took like 5 guys and a bunch of computers and a guidance system and everything to launch. But this rocket only needs one Nicolas Cage. And it led me to wonder, in each of these cases, when they come upon a rocket, there's nobody there looking at it. There's nobody there guarding it. You would think when you know you've been infiltrated, the number one place you want to scramble your guys is to the rockets. But this entire Marine recon unit has disappeared. They kill maybe 5 guys? Where the fuck is everybody else?
Well, not only that, but Goodspeed he's still trying to disable the guidance chip when there's no more rocket left. Where's the rocket? Where the thing's gonna go? You've already sent off the rocket. You have it. You don't need to disable it. Just put it away. Like you're good. You're done.
Maybe he thought they were going to do parts. They're going to take parts from all the other rockets and put it together into one. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I think what was distracting me, and I think it's very effective, is this Hans Zimmer score. Because it just kind of turns off your brain, or it trains your brain into thinking that you're watching something interesting when you're obviously not. Because the entire time, I'm just thinking, all the good memories I have of the Dark Knight trilogy and Pirates of the Caribbean and Dunkirk and Gladiator and Interstellar. Meanwhile, it's the same exact theme that he's using here for The Rock. So I think my brain just shut off, and I think it's designed to do that. And it tricks you into thinking that this movie is good.
Oh, you're absolutely right. If these same scenes didn't have this backing score, you'd be like, yeah, this movie's pretty fucking slow. It's forever long. Every death has to be some elaborate ruse, from pouring lighter fluid or kerosene on a guy's legs and letting him on fire, or going through a mine car ride, or launching a rocket into a guy. These killings take forever. And I think the most egregious one is when Dr. Goodspeed feeds the captain who's attacking him a ball of VX gas. Like, this seems like an incredibly impractical weapon for close range. Like, I thought they were going to use it at some point, but I thought maybe when there's like a cluster of like 5 or 6 bad guys together, maybe you chuck a ball at them and fucking kill them all. No. He shoves it in the guy's mouth. Seems real safe.
That's the one that he puts in his flak jacket, right? That he feeds
it's
to the other guy.
It's not a flak jacket. It's in his pocket. It's in his fucking shirt pocket.
And then he decides to fight, and they go through a fucking wall, and he lands on his stomach.
Yeah, and then they're fighting back and forth. And we got to remember that Goodspeed has spent the last hour beating it in our head. And anyone who will listen to him oh, this is the worst thing on the planet. It'll liquefy your skin. You'll convulse so badly, you'll break your own back. He's telling everyone this, right? He breaks it in the dude's jaw, who then aspirates it. He spits it out. So it goes into the air in a mist, right?
Right.
Why doesn't his skin just fucking melt off and liquefy like he says? And they always explain it away in all these movies with atropine, right? We saw it in Pulp Fiction. Atropine is not a miracle cure, okay? Understand how atropine works, right? So I'm going to break this down, and I Googled it because I didn't know completely exactly how it works. But essentially, when your body is working normally, a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine moves between nerves to carry signals. Once the acetylcholine has done its job, this is normally, an enzyme comes and breaks it down. What the nerve agent does is it destroys the enzyme that stops the acetylcholine from working, and then it builds up and continues the nerves firing over and over and over again. So the atropine blocks the nerve receptors, and what happens is once you have this huge buildup, the connectors never stop, and that's when you twitch, your body can't function. It wouldn't be this clean. Like, you take the injection, dude, he goes down for 30 seconds, he gets back up, and he's running out there waving the flares. You wouldn't be up and running around.
So you tell me your body doesn't like break out into boils and then like you like push your head up against like a window and go, oh, let me out. Let me out. Like you start melting like Swamp Thing. Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's the curious part about this. The VX is obviously not just a nerve agent. It's got to have some sort of a caustic factor to it as well that has a topical attack on your skin. And that is not reflected at all in this in this scene. Like, he's unmarked. Like, he should at least come away looking like Seal or something. Like, he should have some sort of skin damage.
He now pops back up. You know, the atropine has now reinvigorated him. He goes out. The jets are now, there's like a squadron of them at full speed, blazing towards Alcatraz. They then have time to somehow pull up because the command is, we see green smoke, green smoke. It then falls, and wasn't that supposed to like just kill everything? It was supposed to just annihilate the island.
Yeah, it's supposed to be burning at a temperature hotter than any other material we currently have. It's experimental, and one of the bombs does go off, but miraculously, none of our heroes are even harmed by it.
No. Well, it's funny because this movie was at one point in discussion for a sequel. It never developed past the concept that Mason is being chased by the government after escaping. Also, Sean Connery retired from acting in 2005. I think he came back for like one other film in 2010. But I thought Sean Connery had passed away. No, he's still alive. He's 89 years old. Do you know that? I had no idea. I thought Sean Connery died.
Dead?
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, the only reason I know he's alive because recently with that hurricane that came through, Sean Connery now lives in the Bahamas, and he refused to leave his home.
Really,
so they showed a picture of him. He looked rough. He looked like an old crazy man who had just survived a hurricane. So that's the only reason I knew he was still alive.
That's because he is an old man who just survived the hurricane.
Well, I just want to ask one final question here, closing it out. We talk about the things that Bay likes to do over and over again. His next movie, Armageddon, the guys, they also want to know who shot JFK. So I'm going to ask you guys, if you find the microfilm, what secret from the past 50 years would you want to learn?
Area 51.
Yeah, Are We Alone?
Oh, I want JFK. I want that one.
Why? Who cares? We all know.
I want to know.
We all know it was the government and like the military industrial complex that took him down. We all know that. Like, you don't need a microfilm to confirm your bite. Like, it happened.
Listen, strange shit happens. I think it would just be ironic if it turned out to be fucking Oswald who did it. I would love to be like, fuck, he actually did do it. I'd have some peace in that.
All right.
Yeah, choosing between that and the biggest question of our lifetime seems
right.
like JFK seems like a good bet. Are we alone, man?
Of course we're not alone.
But have they been
here? Of course we're
here?
not alone. Who fucking cares? We know we're not alone. It doesn't matter if they came here.
Well, now's the time of the podcast where we break out our Shat meter and give you our wipe scores. If you've never listened to the podcast before, Zero Wipes is a perfect movie. It's like inserting an atropine shot directly into your anus and killing all your nerve receptors and making, I guess, I don't know, like a very clean poop. I don't know. It just destroys everything. I don't know. Or maybe it's the equivalent of like dropping one of those thermite bombs, right? It's clean. It vaporizes everything. A 5 wipe is like shoving one of those chemical glass balls and just everything just going to like crap. It's all messy. Your body starts convulsing into boils. It's just really bad. So 0 wipes good, 5 wipes bad. We'll start with you, Gene. How many wipes do you give The Rock?
Raj, I want to start out by saying The Rock makes no sense at all. Like, I found myself looking at the screen, throwing my hands up and screaming, "What the fuck?" every few minutes, but I was laughing the entire time I was doing it. It was a very happy what the fuck. Nicolas Cage is undeniably hilarious. I think this is one of his best performances in a I guess, somewhat comedic role. And Ed Harris was steady as ever. I felt like Sean Connery's performance was whatever. I like him in a lot of movies. I liked him as James Bond. I think he's pretty good. Rising Sun was a lot of fun to watch, but he just seems kind of checked out in this movie. And at over 2 hours long, it is a bit bloated and repetitive. I kind of felt like I was seeing the same scene over and over again. But if you are the kind of viewer who can turn off his or her thinking cap and just enjoy some mindless action that was probably dreamed up by a 12-year-old, this movie really has a lot going for it. I do agree, just like Rotten Tomatoes does, that this is Michael Bay's best work. I don't really like Armageddon or pretty much anything else he's done, but this was pretty strong. I would say it's even better than Bad Boys. So for me, this is 1.5 wipes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, Gene. The movie is corny, it's over-reliant on dumbed-down dialogue, and it's full of Bayisms. But like a Popeye's new chicken sandwich with a side of Cajun fries and a buttermilk biscuit, it's a guilty pleasure that surprises you with how much you enjoy it. That's what this movie is. But while it may be the best Michael Bay film of the 90s, it's still fast food cinema, and if you eat too much of it, you're going to get diabetes and lose a foot. For that reason, I can't give it anything higher than a 2-wipe movie, but it's the best Michael Bay film of the 80s and 90s, so yeah, 2 wipes.
I find it ironic that your most nuanced and balanced review of a film was for Michael Bay's The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really proud of you, Raj. This is fair.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? I worked on this for days. So that's 1.5 for Gene. That's 2 for me. Big D, round us out. Complete the Shat score. How many wipes does The Rock get from you?
So I got to give this, I think, a 1.5. I'm obviously a Bay fan. Up until a point. Transformers I turned off. He started to read his own press and thought he could do anything. But in these early 90s movies, they're compelling, they're fun. And Gene, like you said, this plot is as if I was a 10-year-old boy playing with my toys and, oh yeah, here comes the chemist. He's going to save the day. And there's a big nerve agent. We got to save. Maybe that's why I like it. It is dumb. You can turn your mind off. Not everything needs to be compelling or have you think about, existential crisis or what does life mean to you. This is just supposed to be fun. The negative I'll say is it's a bit bloated. I didn't need the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom minecart chase. You could have had all the rockets in one place. We didn't need just there's 2 or 3 scenes you could have cut, shave off 30 minutes because towards the third act, it started to drag. But I love Cage, Connery together. The supporting cast was great. The explosions are fantastic. You know where every dollar went. It was enjoyable. It's like Armageddon. I know you two guys hated it. It's a fun time in the movies in the summer. And even now, I had a good time. It made me think about the days when I was more carefree and I didn't care about whether a movie was going to have a profound impact on the way I view life. This was just a stupid, blow-em-up movie that was a hell of a lot of fun. So I think it's a 1.5 is fair.
All right, so if we take 2 1.5 scores and my 2 wiper and add them up and divide by 3, Gene, what does that give us?
Raj, that drops us just under 1.5 wipes at an average wipe score of 1.6 repeating, which is not as good as the Karate Kid.
Big D, if we take that 1.6 repeating and compare it to the other films we've done on Shat The Movies for, going on 4 years now. Is it 4 years? 3 years?
No, 3 years. You fucking
years?
How many weeks
like
are in a
4.
year, Raj?
I don't know anymore. So Big D, where does The Rock sit in the pantheon of Shat?
So with a 1.66 repeating, that now sits tied in the 44 spot with Gremlins, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, War Games, and The Natural. It is better than Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Starship Troopers, and worse than Galaxy Quest and Spaceballs.
Perfect.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun 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 dun
dun dun dun dun dun. Yeah.
See, look, you smiled.
I smiled. It's Hans Zimmer. It's the Hans Zimmer effect. I'm convinced it's the same thing with Game of Thrones. It's the Ramin Djawadi effect, right? And the opening screen. Like, you think it's going to be a good show because of the opening sequence, and then it turns out it's season 8. That so yeah, no, I think that's fair. I guess it feels right? The system works.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now's the time of the podcast where we give our shout outs and tell you what movie is coming up next. Gene, what's a shout out?
Raj, a shout out is our way of saying thank you for visiting shatthemovies.com, where you can see upcoming movies and vote for movies that you like. You can also look back through our back catalog and search for the movies that you'd like to hear reviewed. This week's shout outs go out to Oddball Dave, Love You Joe Weldon, Big Pair of Bristles UK, Bumblebee Loves You, The Wrath of Vaughn, Douglas Bolduc, King 88, Giosu Bonino, I'm a stupid moron with an ugly face and a big butt, and my butt smells, and I like to kiss my own butt, Rob S., and Young Me. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the podcast and going to shatthemovies.com. Again, if you would like to hear your name on the podcast, just go to the website, put your name into the shout-out box, and we'll read it here.
Big D, what movie was commissioned for us next week?
No commission next week. I gotcha. We are doing the best of Big D.
Oh, all right.
So these 6 movies, when I put them up for voting, not all of them survived to this point. So I normally don't tell you how things have finished, but I'm going to knock some of these off. So the 6 movies were The Karate Kid. We've already done it. Next was Demolition Man. Already did it. The Rock. We just did it. So the remaining 3 films that are left up for voting was E.T., the extraterrestrial, Flash Gordon, and Stargate. So stay to the end, listen to the trailer to find out what's coming next week, but it will be a good one.
Well, that concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere on social media, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Just follow the handle at Shat The Movies. Our Facebook page, you can find the link on shatthemovies.com. Just click on Facebook. Our website, where you can find all of our links, including our support links through PayPal, Venmo, and our Amazon affiliate link, is all at shatthemovies.com. You can complete a survey while you're there also to help us find some potential advertisers on the show. And if you have a upcoming request that you want to hear about the podcast, you can email us, connect with us at hosts@shatthemovies.com. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and Spotify. Be sure to subscribe if you stop by iTunes. Please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That does help the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and The Watchmen. You can find all the information on that website, shatontv.com. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, and Gene Ranger Bob Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next week for the following review. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, good night, and good luck.
In this quiet neighborhood, on this tranquil street, a mystery is unfolding. And an adventure is beginning. Again.
I'm keeping you.
In March 2002, Steven Spielberg's masterpiece returns to theaters everywhere.
What's he doing? E.T. Phone home. E.T. Phone home.
Like you've never experienced it before. With enhanced visual effects. Never before seen footage. And a digitally remastered soundtrack. Next spring, take the journey.
What are you waiting for? Let's go!
And experience the excitement as E.T. returns home to the big screen for a new generation to discover what the rest of us will never forget. Steven Spielberg presents the 20th anniversary of E.T. the Extraterrestrial.